Hey friends, welcome to today's live stream. I'm so excited to be here today. Happy Friday. Hope you're having a great day so far. I am streaming right now on YouTube and Facebook Live, and I have the lovely Rebecca in the chat on both platforms. She's moderating the comments, and so that if you have any questions, she will pass them along to me so that I make sure I see everything and I can answer them. I'm gonna do a little chit chat before while people start to join today. But basically the topic of today's masterclass is your marketing year in review. It's December. I know it's still a really busy time of year for you out there. If you still haven't approached your holiday shipping deadline, hopefully you're fulfilling a lot of last minute gift orders. But it is really good to take some time to carve out time to review the year that you just had and to look ahead to 2026 and set goals. I find that sometimes this time of year can pass us by really quickly, and all of a sudden it's February and we don't have any goals set for the year. So this is your chance to grab your favorite beverage, maybe grab a coffee. I got my coffee here. Get out a notebook. Maybe if you have marketing data that you already pulled, that would be great to look at live with us today. But yeah, I'm really excited to talk about this topic. Give me 1 second. I'm just doing a tech check. Okay. Looks like we're all good here. So why don't we jump in? If you are watching, introduce yourself in the chat. We will see it. Rebecca, as I said, will be moderating and she will pass it along to me. But yeah, don't be a stranger. Hi, Laura. Thank you for joining us on Facebook. I know you said you would join, and I do want to chat with you more about wholesale goals. That was a special request that we got from Laura earlier before the masterclass. So I'll make sure to work that in. And if you have any other specific questions as we go, I definitely want to address them. All right, so let's jump right in. I have my notes here. First, I want to ask the chat before I even start going off on my own agenda. How was your 2025? How are you feeling about it? How did it go? Were there things that you had hoped for at the beginning of the year or set goals for that either went really well and you achieved, or didn't go so well and either you know why or you don't know why and you want some advice or insights? Let us know in the chat. I really want to hear. I want to make this more casual and tailored to you. So I want to hear about what worked, what didn't, and what you're looking forward to in 2026. I know it was a really, really challenging year, especially for jewelry business owners, other product-based brands that maybe were affected by rising materials costs, tariffs, etc. And so it was a year where we had to quickly pivot and change. So even with the best laid plans, the greatest intentions, at some point this year, I'm sure you had to pivot and change. So yeah, let me know in the comments about any of those things. I would say the best way, and this isn't going to surprise you, but the best way to start going about looking at your year in review is to pull data and numbers. And so we would recommend pulling from Meta Business Suite if you use platforms like Instagram and Facebook, your email marketing, and your website, so your traffic analysis. One thing that really surprises people when I review their numbers with them or do like a recap report of a campaign or a period of time excuse me, even if we're only interested in the performance of a certain platform, it's kind of important to also look at the numbers around that platform. So, for example, you want to understand your social media performance, but you also may have to look at your website traffic performance, because you need to understand, like, where was all the traffic coming from and what role did social media play in that. Marketing always requires context. So it's really important to kind of look around the edges of the data that you're pulling and to see a whole picture, because nothing really exists in a vacuum. I'm curious to know too, let me know in the chat, are there platforms where you maybe have tried pulling data before, but the data kind of confused or overwhelmed you, or you weren't really sure how to read it or which metrics to pay attention to? I'm going to open Meta Business Suite right now, and I just want to show you an example of what it can look like, because obviously, like in the Instagram app, they have their own metrics, but you can get a deeper dive going in Meta Business Suite, and I will pull that for you. But Rebecca just let me know that Laura says, I have some life events, new granddaughter. Congratulations. So cute. A wedding for another daughter. I did know about that. I hope it was amazing. That's such a special thing. And so Laura wasn't able to do as many in-person markets. Sales were lower than the prior year. And it exposed a weakness in my business of relying on one sales channel for the majority of my sales. That, Laura, I want to applaud you for recognizing that. I think that even though what you found is maybe a weakness in your business, it's good to have the awareness of that. I think a lot of small business owners don't even have the literacy to know what is the weakness in their business, or why maybe they had trouble at a certain period of time. So what is the sales channel that you've been relying on? Is that, are you talking about the online? And the fact that since you pulled in-person events or pulled back on them, you had a decline in sales this year? Is that kind of what you're referring to? Let me know. And it's also good to know, it's also good for you to know that you see the correlation there, that you understand why, rather than like panicking and being like, I don't know, why I had a decline in sales. So I'm just pulling up my screen right now so I can show you Meta Business Suite and an example of something like we might look at to review performance to kind of get insights and help us understand, what to do moving forward. This is actually Joya's Meta Business Suite. So I'm exposing myself. But the way you get to this is you go to business.facebook.com, and then, we have a lot of accounts connected, but it just should be your business that you go to. And then in the left-hand side, you should see Insights here. And when you click Insights, the first thing you'll see is just like an overview. And you can toggle by platform, either Facebook or Instagram. Whoops. And this should give you a really nice snapshot, like if you just want to come and check in with how you're doing. But it doesn't give us the full picture, and it obviously doesn't give us enough data to make sense of the whole year that just passed. So what I like to do is go to the menu here to Content Overview. And here I can toggle a little better by date. For example, this year, if you can't really see because my face is blocking it, so let me go up. So we don't have any paid media on Instagram or Facebook, and so for here there's 0 performance coming from ads. If you spend any money on Meta, it will break it down between organic and ads here. But this is year to date, like our performance. Right now I'm looking at Facebook, and it is comparing to the same period in the previous year. So even if you're not super savvy with like downloading data for a dashboard, and I will show you in a moment like a more in-depth thing you can do, but just going here and adjusting year to date, your performance, it will automatically compare year over year. And I can see, oh, okay, on Facebook, we had an increase in watch time. Our content interactions were down 24%. And then it will give you like a really quick hit snapshot of what performed well. And again, even just looking at this, I could see, oh, wow, okay, this was our top performing post. Look, it's not super relevant to us because we don't typically share pictures of jewelry, but I can probably come to some conclusions about why this post did so well. And then maybe trying to drill a little bit deeper of like, why did our content interactions go down? And I will show you in a moment like how you can drill down. But let me toggle also to Instagram for a moment. So I always just double check that the date range is showing correctly. And while this is exciting to see, our reach went up 37%. Our content interactions went up 100% year over year. So that's really positive and encouraging. For me, I would say, all right, well, what were we doing differently on Instagram in 2025? What part of that strategy do I want to carry over into the new year because it seems to be doing pretty well, at least in comparison to like 2024 performance. And yeah, this just gives you like an overview. And if you wanted to, you can drill down deeper by posts or stories and see what your top performing content is, which of course for us was jewelry content, which isn't super helpful because we're not a jewelry brand. But these are the kind of conclusions you can make. If you are a person who can make observations like most people, you can do this exercise. You don't have to be a data scientist. If you did want to drill down a little bit deeper with Meta, they do have a more in-depth view. Over here, I go to content, and we actually like to use this in our reporting with clients because you can get a pretty good snapshot here, and it lets you like filter down by posts or stories, filter by platform, Facebook or Instagram, and then you can sort by things like, oh, what got the most reactions in this time period? So I can resort it. It's taking a moment to load, I think because it's a whole year's worth of content. I might abandon this in a second. Okay, here we go. So it's sorted by lowest. Cool. Anyway, it's not really working for me, but you can sort however you want. What we usually do and prefer to do, because then you can manipulate the data how you want, is you can export it and it will give you a CSV file that way you can look in like Google Sheets or Excel. And I just, if you have basic knowledge of how to like sort and view data in a spreadsheet, I would recommend doing it this way because you just have more control over what you're looking at. So you would adjust the date range, choose like which platform, and then have it generate a CSV file for you. So we like doing that. Also, if you use a scheduling tool for your social media content, like for example, for a lot of our content and our clients' content, we also use a scheduling tool called Metricool. And Metricool generates its own reports that are pretty user-friendly. And so you can always reference a report from your scheduling platform. I would say I want to give you some assurance and feedback about social media to take with you when you go into your 2026 plan. I don't want to say this as like, oh, this is a convenient excuse I can use for why my performance is going down. No, I just want to be like realistic about social media. And this is wisdom that's coming from looking at a lot of data from different social media accounts of clients that we work with. I would say in 2025, the trending pattern of engagement is going down. Views, reach, engagement, it's almost to be expected. So if you notice that your 2025 social performance was worse than 2024, than 2023, and even if you've tried to change things up, you've tried new content formats, content types, nothing seems to be hitting, I would feel 95% confident saying it's not you, it's the algorithm. I think that it's just getting harder and harder to get that engagement. Social media is increasingly becoming more pay to play. And so when you do look at the numbers, I'm saying all this so that you don't feel discouraged and rather you can enter 2026 with a more realist mindset, not for you to abandon social media and give up on it completely, but just know that in some regards, it's a necessary evil. It does help you with things like search engine presence, with potentially with things like ranking for AI search. And so you do want to keep up with it, represent your brand accurately, write engaging captions, but maybe find a way to balance that in your entire marketing strategy for 2026 and just be realistic about it. The fact that you seeing declining engagement probably says less about you and says more about the reality of things going forward. It's more and more difficult. Oh, Laura just asked, do you upload the CSV file to ChatGPT to analyze? Yes, you can do that. You know, I do that sometimes, not because I don't know what I'm doing, but oftentimes I will just be faced with like a mountain of data and I have a general idea about what I want to say about it. But using a tool like ChatGPT, which does let you upload CSV files, it can, what I find it helpful with, it can validate and confirm things that you have already come to conclusions about and almost be like a second opinion. And two, if you have a lot of data, like a year's worth, it can help you process it quickly or tell you where to even start looking at it. So I think that's a great idea, Laura. I wouldn't, the same advice I would say about anything related to AI. I wouldn't take that as the end all be all, but to have a second opinion. I also like to use it for saying, for asking, where do I start with this? If there's a lot of data, like it can point you in the right direction of what to look at. So 100% I would recommend it as a sidekick of sorts for analyzing your social media data. And CSVs are a perfect use case for that. So I'm really glad that you brought that up. I didn't even think to mention that here. But yes, it is great. You can also do that with your email marketing data as well. If you use a platform like Klaviyo, especially, it will, when you export your data, it will generate a CSV file. You can upload that CSV file to ChatGPT. And again, I would also look at it yourself, because I have found that ChatGPT is not always correct. But if you already have a hunch about something and it verifies your hunch, then I would say that is a good check for you. So yeah, I started rambling there about social media, but one other thing I do want to say about that, because video content is so much more encouraged and accepted on Instagram, and in some ways, not all ways, but in some ways prioritized by the algorithm. Engagement metrics on social media, while they used to be the most important to look at, for example, likes, comments, shares, saves, I would still look at those, but also in 2025, and yes, moving into 2026 as well, user behavior has changed with social media. Also, people engage with social media in such a different way now. With TikTok, for example, I'm not sure if any of you use TikTok or consume TikTok content. I know for me, even if I see something that I think is so cute, I like it, my TikTok algorithm shows me a lot of cute animal videos, I will just treat it as passive content that I'm viewing. I don't often feel compelled to like or comment, but for me, if I view something for the entire length of the video, that's a positive sign, because I actually did engage with it. And so a lot of people are interacting with social media in this way. So view time, views, and reach are just as important, if not more important, than the likes, comments, share, save. So also don't get discouraged if you've noticed that your likes have gone down. Look more also at your views and reach data. And ChatGPT is also very good at helping spot trends. So for example, if you give it a year's worth of data to analyze, is there an upward trend? Is there a downward trend? In which KPI or key performance indicator is that? Really good sidekick. I have no better word to describe it. ChatGPT is the sidekick. Social media data sidekick. Okay. Any questions so far? And the main takeaway, really, use that data to make a better plan for 2026. Try something new. Be like a scientist in that, okay, you did the experiment. The experiment was 2025. Now we're going to have a hypothesis moving into 2026, and we're going to do another experiment. That's all that marketing is. Nobody has answers, really. We're all just trying, because every business is different, every market is different, every customer is different. So we're always just trying and seeing what happens. And hopefully your guess is correct and you're doing the right thing. If not, you pivot, you change, and you try something else. Yeah, let me know if you have questions so far. I did briefly touch on exporting email marketing data. So the same way that I exported Meta Business Suite data, you would do so for Klaviyo as well. Unfortunately, I don't have any dummy Klaviyo data to show you, but it's pretty easy to do. And when you're in Klaviyo, you would go to campaigns on the left-hand side. And when you're on the campaign screen, in the top right-hand corner, there's an option to export. And it's very straightforward, much more straightforward than Meta. You just enter a date range, you choose email or SMS, and it spits out a CSV file. You can also do that for flows, and I would recommend. Klaviyo does have kind of like a quick snapshot dashboard as well. In the left-hand menu, it says analytics, and it will give you can customize this dashboard if you want. If you just want to see an overview of a period of time, it can give you that as well. If you don't feel like looking at CSV files or dealing with Excel, blah, 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 that's great too. I'm going to open up Google Analytics and show you some metrics that I think are good to look at the end of the year for making decisions moving into 2026. So just give me 1 second. There is like a sample content I can use. In the meantime, if you have questions, even if they're not related to what I've been talking about so far today, I can answer them. Just let Rebecca know in the chat. Also, if you did participate in Black Friday, how did it go for you? I always am so curious to hear about people's Black Friday performance and how it compared to past performance. Let us know in the comments. Okay, so I have Google Analytics open. This is a demo account so that I'm not exposing anyone's private data. Google Analytics, I think, intimidates a lot of people, but I want to show you some KPIs that I use all the time. And so even if you knew just a few of them, to do a check-in of the year, I think this would be very useful for you. So once you're in Google Analytics, you can go to reports on the left-hand side, and you'll see something that probably looks more like this. If you expand each of these, you'll get other types of reports. For me, the most useful for e-commerce, especially to understand like where your traffic was coming from for the year and even comparing it to the previous year, I like to go to traffic acquisition here. So depending how much traffic you get to your site, this may or may not be like intense and overwhelming or kind of moderately overwhelming. You always want to make sure the date range is adjusted. So for the sake of this exercise, I'm just doing year to date. And they have this crazy chart here. We're not going to look at that right now because it's overwhelming. If you scroll down, you can see, not super difficult, like where all your traffic came from for year to date. So this is Google Merchandise Store, and they make their data public for use with like testing and learning Google Analytics. And it is right now not in order. Let me fix that. There we go. So yours by default will probably be in order by most to least. So you won't have to do this, but for them, I have to change. So the most traffic came from direct, which means somebody went to their browser and typed the URL for the Google merchandise store. Year to date, they had 612,000. And then it goes down from there. So organic search, that means that someone came from a search engine. Paid search, that means Google ads or ads on another search platform. Unassigned means that there are privacy settings in place that prevents Google Analytics from knowing the source of all traffic. So some people might have like private browsers or cookies or whatever, but it can't attribute all traffic. And then also referral means they came from another site, organic, social, blah, blah, blah. Most of it is pretty self-explanatory. To understand how your performance compares to the previous year, you would just go to compare and click previous year, easy as that. Before you click apply, and I apologize, I'm blocking this, but I just verify the date ranges are correct. And on the bottom, you click apply, and it will very nicely show you a comparison overall. So overall, the traffic they got to their site was up year over year. And then for the major sources, it will like break it out for you and show you, oh, okay, direct went up 268%, organic search went up 405%, blah, 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 and so on and so forth. So even if you just went into Google Analytics and looked at this report that I just described to you, you would have a really good understanding of how traffic has changed coming to your site year over year. And that can help you understand, okay, has one of the sources really gone down and why? Can you find reasons for that? Maybe social has changed a lot. Oh, did you post less? Or is it that your posts aren't getting as much views? And just think kind of critically about it and see if you can come up with any reasons for that. And this is totally optional, but if you want to get fancy, you can go up here to where it says session primary and click the plus sign and type session source medium, and that breaks it down even more detailed. So you'll see it's just going to load for a sec. So it's specifying here that organic search was from Google rather than like Bing or whatever, Yahoo. And this is helpful because sometimes we want to better understand the social traffic rather than just seeing organic social. We can look at it by platform. So let's see what we got. This also is broken down by like different email campaigns. Let's see. So here, like Instagram, for example, their Instagram traffic went up 587%. So that gives you a really good snapshot of where traffic is coming from. I feel like for a lot of business owners, this is like a black box of mystery and they don't know how to make sense of increases or decreases in their traffic. And this can unlock a lot of insights for you. And then another thing that I like to look at in here, again, if you just want some more like basic things, you can go to reports and go down to, the engagement menu item, and then click pages and screens. I'm actually going to shut off the data for this one. And what Pages and Screens tells you is the top viewed pages on your site for a period of time. And I think this is really important to check in with also, because you can see like what are people looking at, what is the most popular. You can also see, I can't scroll over. Oh, here we go. The average like engagement time that someone spends on a page. And so if someone is like going to whatever shop apparel and they're only spending 59 seconds there, oh, maybe there are some things you can do to make that page a little more engaging. So it's good to look at maybe the first, like, I don't know, 10 to 25 and just see if any of it is surprising to you, or if it makes sense, or if it is like what you expect it to be. And the last thing I will show you, this won't necessarily be available to all Google Analytics accounts, but if your e-commerce tracking in Shopify is like funneling into Google Analytics correctly, you can also go to monetization and go to overview. And this shows you specifically about e-commerce data on your site. So it'll tell you like the total revenue that Google Analytics is attributing, how many purchasers, average per user, just a breakdown of anything related to e-commerce. And the checkout journey, I think, is really helpful because it allows you to see like where people are dropping off in the purchase funnel. So here you can see, okay, 472 abandoned checkout, 6,900 abandoned the shipping step, blah, 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 blah. Like where people leave the flow in the checkout process, which could be good to understand for improving the checkout experience also. Does anyone have questions about Google Analytics? Do you look at it ever? Again, I feel like for a lot of people, it's a little bit of a black box. But let me know in the comments if you do look at it sometimes. And then just a checklist of more like less data related items and more experiential stuff. So walking through your website as if you were a shopper, or having a friend or family member do that, from looking at a product to checking out. And what do you notice? I find there are so many things that kind of just get overlooked, or the business owner doesn't realize has been not working for a really long time. So walking through your own checkout experience, looking at your product photos, like when was the last time they were updated? Are there types of photos you wish you had for your website, for social media? If you need photos, like planning that next photo shoot in 2026. Also, I just totally lost my train of thought. But Laura said, my totals for 2025 for traffic acquisition is actually up. That is encouraging. Amazing. And you know what is so funny about it is, like, I'm guilty of this too, so I'm not calling anyone out. But sometimes we like operate our business on vibes, especially if we're like an intuitive person. We kind of can just feel something is off, or we feel like we're having like a worse year. But then sometimes when you are like, okay, it's time to stop operating out of vibes and look at actual numbers, and you sit down and you're like, oh, well, yeah, this thing is down, but actually I did so much better than I thought in this other way. And that's why it's so important, because also, for example, I think when it comes to money, our intuition knows like, oh, wow, okay, our sales are down. Like, I don't even have to look at the sales to know sales are down. But then you look at the numbers and maybe there are so many other improvements you have made or strides you have taken that are not related to revenue. And while it's amazing to have a banner revenue year, that's just not going to be possible for everyone all the time. It's just not. We can't always be constantly going up. Very unrealistic. And so if your revenue year wasn't as good, like what other improvements were there? What other successes did you have? And how is that all going to set you up to have your great revenue year in 2026? So we have to really look at the big picture and not just look at sales numbers in a vacuum, because there's so much else around that, the context, everything to create a whole picture. And I do want to talk about content planning, because that is such a big part of setting goals for 2026. And so sitting down and mapping, literally looking at the entire calendar year from January to December 2026. And while I would not recommend doing like a micro planning for the whole year, and what I mean by that is like social media posts or something like that, doing the big picture. So your key dates, events, any promos you might want to do, production calendar, what will you be releasing, what will you be phasing out in 2026. I will admit it's daunting to look that far, but there shouldn't be a ton of surprises. For example, like we know Christmas is gonna happen in 2026, so there's no reason that we shouldn't like plan around for those things that are kind of like baked into the calendar. And also, if you did participate in Black Friday, there's no better time than now to look at what happened, what worked, what didn't work, how did you maybe not prepare as well as you could have, what were you happy about, and putting that into the calendar for 2026. What are you going to do different? Because I can guarantee you by the time you get there next year, it's going to be really hard to remember what happened in 2025. And you don't want to be like repeating mistakes or missing opportunities that at this moment right now, you're super primed to like have a strategic mindset about. So map out the whole year. And I want you to use that as your roadmap guide. That way you can check in with it. However often makes sense for you, whether that's once a week, once a month, like checking into that roadmap, filling it in, editing it as you get more information, as you get new information, adjusting, and using that as your guide moving forward. It's obviously going to change. We have to change. We have to be open to change and being nimble, but it's better to have somewhat of a structure rather than just flying by the seat of your pants. I've been doing marketing long enough to know that flying by the seat of your pants 100% of the time guarantees that you're not going to be successful unless you have like really good luck, but you can't rely on luck to have a sustainable business. Also, if you're doing trade shows, that brings me to a topic that Laura had asked about previously, wholesale outreach. If you are watching this and you, like Laura, are hoping to work that into your strategy in 2026, that when it comes to sales, I think when you are starting a strategy like that, the biggest thing at the beginning is going to be to focus on the relationship building and the consistency. So that can even be worked into your content calendar. Literally, on Mondays, I'm doing a round of cold outreach, or whatever are the steps that you have to do to like make sure you're engaging with your target wholesale customers. That should be plugged into the whole plan of the year, because I think it's easy with any goal to say, it's the trope of, oh, I want to start going to the gym in January and like get fit and healthy. And you sign up for a gym membership, but there's no time every week that you've actually carved out for that. And so you kind of just rely on hopefully having like a free hour somewhere in your schedule to go. But oops, it's raining. I don't really feel like leaving my house, et cetera, et cetera. So it's important that it's actually built in to the whole calendar and that there's space and time for it, and working backwards from there to help you achieve your goals. Something like wholesale, I had mentioned this to Laura, is really about relationship building. I mean, we're not a sales agency. Like, we don't actively help our clients with that, but I've worked with enough clients who have pretty successful wholesale aspects of their business. And the one thing I can confidently say they all have in common is that they really work on the relationship building for that. And that is a dedicated job in a sense. I mean, the solopreneur can certainly do it, but it's something you have to carve out time for as if it's a job. If you kind of just are more passive in your wholesale relationships or hope that people come to you, I have seen it with my own eyes. It doesn't work very well. Like, you really have to be proactive in cultivating those relationships and establishing and cultivating them. So that should be worked more into a calendar with time carved out for it. And you can certainly use the JoyDeck content calendars to start plotting in ideas for January. We're going to have our January calendar ready by the beginning of next week. It's not ready quite yet, but it will be shortly. However, in our content calendar archives, I'm 99% sure there's a January calendar from last year. And you can use that to get started. A lot of the calendars in our archives have some pretty evergreen ideas, so you don't necessarily have to wait to start brainstorming for that. I think also, to bring it all full circle, we're coming to the end of the year, making sure you do have that focus on customer experience and thinking about how you can strengthen that in 2026. Because I'm finding with my clients, e-commerce being so competitive, algorithms being unreliable, the brands that are going to succeed are the ones that are able to kind of create a sense of community, of loyalty, of personal connection with their customers. So even considering reaching out at this time of year with something more personal, like a thank you email or social message or handwritten cards, and not just as a one and done thing, but using that as a starting point for a vibe that you will bring into 2026 and keep building upon. Laura said, the one store I'm in, I've done several pop-ups for them before I approach them to carry my jewelry. Looking for more opportunities like this that are local may be a good first step. I agree with you. I think, and that's something, thank you for bringing that up. Starting local, I think, is a good way to have that face time, to build that relationship in a more real way. And also leveraging the fact that you do have a relationship with the one store. It's kind of like a social proof, a trust factor, and building out from there, because the more momentum you can build and the more you can show, oh, look, I have these happy wholesale clients, the more likely someone maybe outside of your local community will be to take a chance on you, because it is a risk for the retailer too to take on a new brand. So they want to feel assured that it's a good chance that they're taking. And I can't not talk about reflecting on 2025 and planning for 2026 without talking about mindset too. I mean, it plays a role. I cannot ignore that. So also considering, maybe where as a business owner could I have refined my mindset a little bit in 2025? Whether that means I need to be a little more bold and not be afraid of change or of trying something new, or I need to work on my consistency, or I need to put myself out there more, or I need to be more positive about my business rather than like beating myself up all the time. And, do this in a gentle way. Don't beat yourself up. We can all work on ourselves, right? And so what mindset wise do you want to bring into 2026? And also, how can you amplify and reflect that through your brand and your business too, so that your customers can feel that come through and feel that you are growing and changing and you are working hard to make their experience really amazing and to bring them the most amazing products. If you're just sitting on your laurels and not showing that you're showing up and trying hard, like people will feel that energy, I think. And so what kind of business owner energy do you want to bring into 2026, and how will you stay accountable to that too, so that you don't just forget at the end of January? And again, not saying that to call anyone out. I struggle with this too. I think it's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day and just forget all the things that you are hoping for yourself and your business. And so what system do you have in place to stay accountable to that? So what questions do you all have before we wrap up? We have a few minutes left. I hope you all have something fun planned for the weekend and for the holidays ahead. I'm looking forward to a holiday break. This is our last masterclass of the year and our last live one. I have announced this in a few places. We are going to be moving to a recorded format in 2026. They will still be very in-depth, have resources associated with them, but we just find it's a little bit more convenient for most people to watch on demand rather than trying to coordinate a time that works for everyone. So that's what we will be doing in 2026. Let me share my screen. If you are not a JoyDeck member and you're watching this on YouTube, I want to show you what JoyDeck members do get. They get an entire resource kit related to this masterclass. So they can watch the replay on demand, as well as all our exclusive resources that are related to this masterclass. They also get to enter the monthly challenge. So this challenge, and the deadline is January 1st, so you have till the end of the month to enter, is use the unique link in each I was reading the wrong thing. I'm like, that doesn't sound right. List out 3 main goals you will work towards during the following year. Share them with us at the link below, and then you can submit your challenge. That is for JoyDeck members only. However, if you're not a JoyDeck member and you want the resources as well as enter the challenge, one winner of the challenge gets to pick a free Swift on-demand service, which is a $99 value. If you want to get a JoyDeck trial so that you can access all the resources, enter the challenge, and have a chance to win one of these Swift on-demand services, you can get your free trial by going to myjoydeck.com and clicking free 30-day trial to also access all our other resources. We have a whole library of masterclasses. We have templates for email and social media. We have content calendars, which I was talking about before, available to JoyDeck members only. JoyDeck members also always get 50% off our Swift on-demand service shop. So if you need a tune-up for an aspect of your marketing, we have the Swift on-demand services to help you, rather than if you don't have the budget for like full marketing support. These have been really beneficial for our members. But if there aren't any more questions today, I want to thank you for coming today, or thank you for watching the replay. I hope you have an amazing weekend and a lovely holiday season. And